Thank you, Charlie. Good evening, and thank you for being here. It's 3001 schools, because I was in a rural Indiana until 4 o'clock this morning, and I was visiting a micro school. Guess what it was inspired by? One Stone. This little school has inspired people around the world to do things differently and better, and each of you in your own way are part of that. I was asked to give an hour lecture on my findings on 30 years and 300 school visits, but I'm going to summarize that in 2 words. American teenagers are bored and stressed out. It's this weird mixture of bored out of their minds because they're asked to do stupid, meaningless work at high school, to take classes and earn grades that don't seem relevant to them or to their future, right? And I had the privilege almost 18 years ago, maybe 16 years ago, to visit Teresa Poppin, who had her eyes on this early. She saw these trends happening and started the best after-school program in America. And I met with her and her team as they were just beginning to think about starting a high school. And fast forward to today, I believe there's 3 things that One Stone does that are unique and important in the world. And that is they develop learner agency. And I think in the age of AI, having a sense of agency, of who you are and what you're about, and knowing when and how to act on the world might be the most important thing that you develop as a young person. Secondly, One Stone teaches young people how to be learners, how to build their own transcript and tell their own story. And third, and most important and unique to me, is One Stone learners do work that matters to them and to their community. Those 3 things don't happen at more than a couple dozen places in the world. And in One Stone fashion, I want to invite a couple of my board members to give you a couple of headlines on each of those topics. So, Raya, are you over here?
Hi.
So tell me about learner agency. Like, what has One Stone done to help you develop that sense of agency, that sense of leadership?
Yeah, Tom. So actually the first time that I saw student voice and agency was at One Stone, the first time that I walked through the doors. If you've been given a tour at One Stone, you know that they're led by students, and to 13-year-old me, that was incredible. I was walking around and we saw design lab teams collaborating and coaches were working alongside students, and there was just a lot of engagement and everyone was active and truly wanting to see what they were learning. So coming from traditional school, the idea of student-driven learning was new to me, and adapting to that didn't come without its challenges. And I'd say it took me about a good year to unlearn learning, going from those lectures and tests to then the hands-on projects with community partners. But throughout that process, I was able to learn how to kind of embrace the ambiguity of those challenges and learn how to find my own voice. So like Tom said, I'm on the board of directors. I've been on there for 2 years. I'm the treasurer of the board, and I am on the audit committee. On the audit committee, we work on things like going over the 990 and reviewing our annual audit and just kind of ensuring the financial stability for One Stone as an organization
I'm glad she can describe a 990 as a agentic experience. But how cool is that to be a director? Like, you're in charge of the school that you're attending, and I just love the leadership and agency that you contribute to being on the board together. So thank you.
And the students are held to the same standards as the board members. I mean, all of our chair positions are held by students, and we are expected to perform the same way as everyone else. It's pretty great.
That's awesome, and it's a privilege serving with you. Sophia's been here 4 years, and she's, since day one, been building a growth transcript. I was thinking about this, Sophia, when Elise was up here. Elise was in that first class. Do you remember that first class? I was thinking of Tess and Ariana, and I watched those kids give their growth transcript report to their parents the very first time and had this sense of, man, this is really unique. These kids know what they're learning, why it's important, and can describe their own learning journey. What's that been like for you over the last 4 years, and how has it worked out?
Yeah, thank you, Tom. One of my favorite things to say is that One Stone isn't only building successful students, but also just all around well-rounded human beings. I think I had a pretty unique journey with the growth transcript. I was a straight A student. I came into One Stone and I was basically like, why would I work on empathy or vulnerability during school? I just want to do some math problems. What's happening? Why am I trying to reflect on my learning? Why am I trying to look at my future? Just hand me a test and I'll get an A and it'll be fine. That obviously doesn't work very well here. Like you stated, we have a growth transcript with multiple different areas. The space I would say I've worked on most is vulnerability. I used to really struggle with vulnerability. I thought it was every single person I met had to know my deepest, darkest secrets and the closest parts of me. And I think while that can be part of it, vulnerability is just putting yourself out there. It's speaking in front of this room. And it's that kind of like, just notion of I can do this and I've got this. Vulnerability has really taken me places I would have never imagined. This fall, the lab director, Michael, and I actually had the opportunity to fly to Barcelona, Spain, to speak at a conference on STEAM education and what the future of education looks like around the globe. There was some interesting language miscommunication, and we did not fully understand our role at the conference. We ended up presenting about 5 or 6 times to a variety of different educators and students from around the globe. This was really scary, as you can probably assume. I'm sure you guys are all like, oh, man. I got to wear a language translation headset. That was cool. And while this was scary, looking back on where I would have been 4 years ago, this was exciting. It was more exciting than anything else.
So has this growth transcript worked out? Were you able to access the colleges you had in mind?
Yes. I visited Tufts University this summer, and as the second I stepped on campus, I was like, this is it. I will be attending Tufts University in the fall.
That's awesome. So
Thank you.
this is, sorry, let me interrupt. This is a big deal. This is a big deal. When that first class stepped into the growth transcript and started producing something new, there were only a couple other schools in the country that had attempted this. And you as a community have helped demonstrate the efficacy of a new way of describing capabilities. And it works. Hundreds of kids have accessed the best universities in America, like Sophie, using this kind of a transcript. So you've been part of something super important, and man, I'm glad that worked out well for you. That's awesome.
Thank you.
So I do want to compliment you that vulnerability, what an interesting thing to have on your transcript, right? It's alongside a bunch of hard skills, but you can also describe your emotional intelligence and give examples of where and how you developed and demonstrated those skills, right?
Yeah.
That's awesome. Thank you.
Thank you, Tom.
All right, last thing that I think makes One Stone really special is that young people do work that matters. Work that matters to them, that's of interest to them, that matches their passions and interests, but it's also important to Boise and the broader community. Louis, give us an example of a project that you've done that feels like work that's important.
Okay, yeah. A good example of this is my partnership with Alyssa Pearson and Duck Club. Duck Club runs Tree Fort and pretty much every live music event in downtown Boise. Last year, my design lab team was partnered with them, and we were tasked with keeping compost at Tree Fort clean. Compost is incredibly delicate, and if there's any trash mixed in, it can't be used. Tree Fort currently relies on volunteers to dig through this compost by hand and pull out any trash, which is not a good job. It's pretty disgusting. And if volunteers don't sign up to do that, their system will fall apart. To help this, my team built the compost creature. It's a big, strange, and attention-grabbing installation designed to draw people in, but it's not just something fun to look at. It teaches festival goers how to compost using very clear and strategic signage. And this was prototyped last year at Tree Fort. It received a ton of positive feedback, and this year I'm taking it on again, and I plan to make it even bigger and better. Yeah.
Thank you. What's so cool about your story is that I call that opportunity recognition or problem finding. High school kids in America don't get that chance. We give them small problems with right answers, and they're stepping into a world full of ambiguity where they have to be an entrepreneur. Louis is learning how to be an entrepreneur, where he got the space and the opportunity to find a problem that mattered, one that mattered to him, one that mattered to his community, and then step into value creation and build a solution that made his community better. That is awesome. That's like the most valuable thing we can allow high school kids to do, and every One Stone learner in both the lab school and the after school program get a chance to do that. So thanks for sharing your story, Louis. Those three examples of developing agency, developing meta learning, learning to learn, to manage your own learning, and finding work that matters, and learning how to deliver value to your community, I think those are the most valuable things we can do. And One Stone is best in class at those three. And for that reason, I think this little school might just be the most important school in the world. For that reason, I'm glad that you're here, and thank you for supporting One Stone.
You just